Welcome to the show. Today we are going to make kimchi, which is dedicated to a very good friend of mine called Kimberly, so we are making Kimberly chi. First of all, you need some ingredients, like this radish, for example, 1 leek, a bush of spring onions, a big carrot, Chinese cabbage or napa cabbage. I like to use 6 pieces of garlic, actually garlic onions, they're really tasty. I like to use myself 1 bag of dried fish, dried anchovies. Very nice stuff, but you can also try another kind. I like to use 2 big onions, 1/2 finger of ginger. You need a lot of salt. You need fish oil, or in this case shrimp oil, doesn't really matter to me. This is called rice flour, but in my country it's a little bit difficult to find, so this is a very good substitute. It's rice flour. Then you need some Korean red pepper flakes. A lot of sugar. I like to use brown sugar. And I think that's about it. The first thing I'm going to do is make a porridge. You take some water, you put in the porridge, put the sugar in, a lot of sugar. You add the red pepper flakes, and that's the base of the porridge. And then when you cook it for a little while, you can let it cool off so you can use it later. That's why I like to start right away. 1 liter of water, then 200 grams of rice flour, 1 cup of the red pepper flakes, then I add 1, 2, 3, 4 spoons of sugar. So we put it on the heater and we start boiling it. You can see it's very thick, so just add another little of water. Doesn't really matter. Well, I think I put in like 3 liters of water. to make it a real nice porridge. As you can see, this is nice and thick. The point is, there will be some bacteria later that start fermenting those vegetables, and they need a basis to start with, and this is a nice basis where the bacteria can feed on. Eventually they will get very acidious and then actually conserve the vegetables with acid. I used 3 liters of water, 1 big cup of red hot pepper flakes, 200 gram of rice flour, but I see this is a little bit too much, so I probably won't use it all, but it's okay. So you heat it up. Until it boils, then you put it off the fire and let it cool off. The next thing I'm going to do is take the garlic, the ginger and the onions and cut them in little pieces, then combine them with a huge cup of fish oil and then blend them all together until it's another porridge, and we pour that porridge over that porridge. And then mix it all together, and that's the basic sauce of kimchi. Then we cut the vegetables and we add them. I like to grind the dried fish, put it in, and it tastes real good. This thing, I have to cut this in little pieces, like little square pieces. Then I put salt in it, a lot of salt, and it drains out the water. After that, you like maybe an hour, you can wash off the water, and you have to do that like 3 times. Okay, this porridge is a little bit too much. I used about 3 liters of water, 2 big cups of these full of the red pepper flakes. I used 4 spoons of brown sugar and 200 grams of rice flour, but it was a little bit too much, but I don't like to keep the rice flour open, so I put it all in. Normally I use a pan like this for an entire batch of like 16 bottles, but today I make a very small batch because I still have kimchi left from the old batch. So as you can see, I've cut the onions, the garlic and the ginger. This is the amount of fish oil I will use. I put it in that cup and then I'll start blending it with this. I hope this works, because my big blender broke, so now I have to use a small blender, but I'm not sure if that's going to work. Well, let's see. No. I have to cheat with a little water to make it blend more, so that's okay. Just above the surface like that. Yes. Blending is done. I get something like this. We take the porridge off the fire, put the other stuff in, and that should be it. Now the next thing I'm gonna do is to take this knap of cabbage, or Chinese cabbage as we call it, and cut it in little pieces, and we put a lot of salt on it. So it starts draining the water out of the cabbage and it makes it very crunchy after a while. And it's really good. But you have to wash the water off, the salt off. The salt that remains will start the fermentation process. I'm pretty new at this, so I don't know exactly about the chemicals, but it's a lot of information. Okay, I cut the Chinese cabbage in little pieces and it's delicious. Especially when it's salted, it's even better. So what we do now is take a lot of salt and simply pour it over. With a lot of salt. The salt is gonna disappear anyway, so it's okay. Then you mix it all up and you have to stir it every maybe 15 minutes or so. And then after an hour or maybe longer, that's for people to decide themselves. Then you can wash off all the water and mix it with the rest of the vegetables. And then we put it in the porridge. And that's basically kimchi. Well, that's it. And now we start cutting the vegetables. Actually the hardest job of all. But it's fun. This is my favorite way of making carrot pieces. I like them to be small. Not everyone agrees with that maybe, but I like it like this. It looks nice. In the end it will start to look like this. I think this is pretty good. You see, normally you have pieces like this. It should be cut like that. Now the radish, on the other hand, I like to pull off the skin, then cut it in little pieces like that, like discs. You lay them on top of each other, and when you have a stack of them, you just cut them like this, so they're not too small. That's the way I like them. See, like that. In the end, the radish or daikon or horseradish, I think it's horseradish, I'm not sure, has to look like this, and then it should be okay. And this is how I like to cut my spring onions. Pretty nice, huh? This is how I like to cut my leek. Usually I put it in 2 pieces and then pieces like that. Should be good. And then I cut this one, the other half, in the exact same way. Okay, this was a very important part. This is what's left from the Chinese cabbage. As you can see, it's all watery now, and you can start washing off the water like that. I think it's been 1 hour since I left it in the salt. You can see all this water coming out. I need to start washing it. First I wash off the immediate salt from the leaf itself. Now the fish oil and the other ingredients like this dried fish and stuff, they already contain a lot of good salt, so I don't really need to add extra salt. I think I like the fish sauce way more than the real salt. Because it's much more healthy and stuff. Now I throw them back in the pan. Add a lot of water. And then simply do it again. Like that. Now there are some pieces that are pretty hard, like this. Normally when I see them, I just take them off and eat them like that. And you can actually taste how salty they are. And they are really good. Or you can just cut it. Oh. I didn't use too much salt this time because it's only a small batch, but I think the taste is good now. So I start mixing all the vegetables. First let's put in the cabbage, the leek, the amount of vegetables is really up to you. In Korea they use a lot more Chinese cabbage, but I also like the other vegetables. And the problem with this thing is if you cut it in half you have to save the other half or do something with it, and that is not always possible. So normally I make a bigger batch so I can use exactly one of those big radishes. As you can see, it's a lot, but that's okay. The carrots and stuff still sticks together. That's very, it's not very good, but that's okay. Also, this pan is a little too little for this stack. So I take another pan to mix the ingredients. Look at all these colors. It really looks amazing to me. This is why I like kimchi. All the amazing colors and the smell is just so awesome. I really fell in love with making kimchi already from the first time. I don't really eat it that much, but you know, making it is so much fun. Okay, well, I'll be back with an even bigger bucket. I didn't think I would need it today, but this is my original kimchi bucket. I love working with it. And even then, sometimes it's still full. I hope it will be okay this time. Because I really can not make smaller stacks. Okay, there you go. Now I have a special fridge, just like a lot of Koreans do, because kimchi is very smelly. It's a fermenting process. It's a very old method, like 4,500 years old. Fermenting is actually 7,000 years old, as far as I know. Koreans had long and hard winters, so they didn't always have access to their vegetables. So they made this and they put it in pots called ongis, clay pots, to ferment it and then put it underground. So they would always have good vegetables. And it turns out that the fermenting process creates a certain type of bacteria that we really need inside our body, and it can fight cancer, diabetes, some say even autism, probably cholesterol, a lot of other diseases. It contains a lot of vitamins too. And like I said, the chemical process is way too much for me to remember, but I know it's very good. Koreans seem to eat this with every meal. They cannot think of a meal without it. Some are really addicted. I've heard stories about people going on the streets at night just to fetch some kimchi, and I must admit I did have some moments where I was really addicted. I was hungry in the evening and I started eating this and I was totally in love. And I kept eating and eating, because every time you take a bite you like to return to the fridge to take some more, because the taste is so tickling. The fermenting process actually starts tickling your tongue. And that's a really great sensation. And then the sour taste is really good. Okay. Now, this is cooled off and we can use it on the vegetables. And since I cannot use it all because it's a little too much, I will try to see how much I can use for this certain batch. Okay. I need a lot more. Okay. Yeah, that should do it. Mix it all together. Now all the ingredients in this type of food will start the fermenting process, and it goes very quickly. I remember one time I put it in pots and put them all on my freezer. Then within a few hours the pots started to leak, and all the kimchi leaked right into my freezer. And that's really horrible. I can tell you that. You don't want that. So the next time I will let the thing ferment is on my kitchen sink. So when it leaks, it goes right into my sink. It has to stay out the refrigerator for 2 days. So the bacteria, the good bacteria, can really start up. And then they start winning the war, and so they protect your food. Because fermenting is not actually rotting, it's more like the good bacteria actually protect your food. So my personal hope is that if people start eating more kimchi, that the world will maybe one day be released from cancer simply by eating this stuff. But let's see how it works. Now this is the final product, how I want it. And then I add some dried fish in there. I totally forgot about it, sorry. But this is how it should look after my opinion. And then we put it in a pot. I found a specific pot called sauerkraut pot. That's this one. I'll show you. I normally don't use it to ferment, but I'm making another product in this normally. But I want to try it today just to see what happens. It seems that the pot is actually breathing somehow, and that should do something good with the kimchi. So I have no idea. We'll just try and see. Now I'm gonna work with these dried fish. They come in all kinds. I don't think it really matters what kind you use, as long as it's anchovies or something that tastes like that. Sometimes they put in raw squid or something, but we are not allowed to do that in Holland. It's very dangerous. Last time I noticed that when these ferment, they start to be, I don't know, not very nice to chew on. So I figured maybe I should make them smaller, but these are kept in the fridge. They're pretty tough, so I try to make them a little smaller so they don't show up too much. I'm very curious if that makes a difference. In the early days I used fresh anchovies from a tin and then cut it in pieces, but they say that's not very good, so I don't do that anymore. But I also noticed that a lot of people have different opinions about making kimchi, so when you enter that world you just have to go with your guts and just try it. I did it for 1.5 years now. This is my 4th batch, and my last batch was really good. And I want to make it more perfect every time, just to see how far I can go. Oh, it's so warm here. This movie is also made to remind me of how I made it, because I have so many kimchi recipes that I made myself, and I can't remember what the best was, so this time I put it on movie, so I can actually remember what I was doing, and then I can also see what I did wrong. Okay, well, I made little pieces like that today, and I hope that will be a little bit better. Okay, then again, put them in, mix them again. I've had a lot of positive response from people who ate my kimchi, so that motivates me to continue. And I really wonder what will happen if Koreans actually taste this, because they haven't yet, so I'm really curious about it. Okay, Now, what I know about kimchi is it should be kept in glass pots or in um, uh, this kind of pot. Also, they seem to have a plastic container now that can also breathe just like a glass pot, but I don't know where to find them yet. But normally Koreans can stack their kimchi, which is completely different, by the way. They use a more traditional way of kimchi, which where the cabbage is actually in one piece, and they put the sauce in between the leaves and then fold it and put it in a container, and then they put the containers inside the fridge. But I like this Western easy style of kimchi, and it's very easy to work with, so I like this system. Okay, well, let's see if it works. Now, I've heard that there are over 450 known kimchi kinds, with all kinds of recipes and vegetables and stuff inside. But this is one of the most common known, most well-known kimchi kinds, at least here in the West, as far as I know. I am not very experienced with kimchi. Like I said, only 1.5 years, but I heard a lot about it and spoke to many people about it. So I hope I'm doing it right. I know my last batch tasted really good, so I must be doing something right. Now, there is another important thing. If you have put the kimchi inside the container, you must make sure to get the gas bells out, and also it will start to produce gas bells itself. So you might want to check once in a while on your kimchi to see if the gas bells are still producing inside the kimchi. And then what I always do is like this. I simply just keep pushing and pushing and pushing. Well, it's 2 days later, and this is the kimchi, as you can see. It's been breathing a lot. There's water everywhere, and the thing is, there is a lot of oxygen, or I mean gases inside the kimchi, and you can keep pressing, but it's very hard to get it out. So what I'm going to do is put it in a pan and then take the gases out, and then put it in these pots. Very nice if it came out, but it doesn't. Just stop laughing. The smell is really fantastic. Absolutely amazing. really exciting. It's turning a little bit acidic already, and that smells so good. This is really awesome. You can actually eat it right now, but I wouldn't recommend it. But it can be done. I'll taste a little bit just to see how it is. This is so nice and crunchy. Yeah. That is so perfect. It's really tickling my tongue. Now it should come out. Yes. So. Okay. Yeah, I think the taste is perfect. It's very spicy, and I love it. So, now basically I'm just going to mix it all up. And I got two types of pots. These are a little bit more expensive, but I like to use this for my... I don't like to keep the kimchi inside the fridge, because the fresh products will be how do you call it, contaminated by the fermenting process, especially stuff like cheese. That goes bad very quickly, so I keep it in a special fridge. Okay. Well, now be sure to keep some room over in the bottle, because it starts to rise. The water and the gases will put it up and starts to rise, and then it makes a real mess of your fridge. So you have to be careful with that. Now I take a wooden. As you can see, the top stuff is still dry. I don't like that. It has to be under the water. So what I'm going to do is simply keep pressing it and pressing and pressing and pressing, and eventually all the gases will come out, and then you have something like this. And you have I don't know if you can see it, but now there is water on top. And once in a while you have to check if your kimchi doesn't dry out, or it can rot, and then it's pretty serious. If you'll smell it right away if it's really rotten. And you can also see it. So be very careful that you keep it fermented in a very correct way. Okay. And now I take it in the fridge. Okay, this is my special fridge. There are older batches of kimchi here. These one on the left are the old ones, and the ones on the right are the new ones. This is actually kept in a plastic container. There's not much difference in taste, but I like to use this in, for example, soups or sauces. And then you have to blind it, so the quality doesn't really have to be perfect. But to be honest, I cannot even make a difference of the taste. But they say in glass it's a lot better than in plastic. So, oh. Thank you very much for watching my video about kimchi. I hope it's very informative, and I would say have a lovely day. This is the view from my 8th floor. It's really beautiful here. Bye bye.